Welcome to today's class, you guys. We are now recording. Excuse me. Last week, um, if you were here, or maybe not, maybe you saw it in the video. We talked about how we are designing some new software. We're jumping into that, and that is taking off right now. Before I started recording, I just told you guys that I talked to someone else who is interested in the project and is going to be possibly joining it. I'll be talking with him tomorrow, and then I'll be talking with someone on the Shroud of Turin on Wednesday, and then I got another interview with Dr. David Hooker from a university in Ontario, Canada, and we're going to be talking about the cycle of grain and how it relates to the Bible and some of the feasts that we are looking at, particularly right now when they're trying to reconcile the year and find out where Passover is. We may talk about that in this class. Yeah, Leanne, you got your hand up. What's up? You got a question?
Yes, yes. I do have a code. It's the Shroud code that I was telling you about.
Right.
I can't be here on Wednesday at all. I have to be in Flagstaff for a doctor.
Okay, that's
Uh,
okay. You know what? I might take the segment that you show tonight, and I'll pull that and show that in the recording that I do with Russ. So yeah, so if you can
okay,
show it tonight, I can still use it. Yeah,
I sure can. I sure can. I
very
got
good.
it ready just in case.
Yeah. So we're moving forward with that, you guys. I'm very excited um about this new season. There's some I'm getting a lot of feedback already, and I even see where some are, not excited about this the notion of doing that. I saw a post Chris Ray did over there on his Facebook page, and he's not apparently happy that we're using AI technology to help us with this code. But maybe I'm was a little maybe not so clear when I was talking about it. We're not looking for AI to be dominant in this. Okay, we're looking at it to use it to our advantage, helping us design the code program in the sense of writing the code, not manipulating the text, but telling the program or the AI what we want it to do, or the program to do, and getting the code back. When I say code, I'm talking about computer code, not Bible code, right? We need assistance in writing this very sophisticated code software because of some of the things that we want to do with it. Now, the prompts and things like that might be a part of it will be very limited. So this is not like sentient AI where it's going to be able to take over your computer and control the world. It's a very boxed in set of parameters. This is a different kind of AI. It's not the kind that we should be fearful of. I think it would be wise, and it would behoove us to use this technology with the aid of some experts who can use that kind of technology to aid them in doing something exponentially quickly. And not, we're talking about a tremendous amount of time of sitting on the computer typing in code. Everybody understand what that means? Code source. That's very tedious. There's no margin of error. You can't make mistakes in it, right? So that's why it would be, beneficial to use an AI, something that was very knowledgeable of what we're doing. So that's kind of, and here's the point. I saw a video of a guy who was testing this AI knowledge, the stuff that Elon's putting out, and Chat GPT, all that kind of stuff, Grok, those kinds of things. And what he did was he had a computer, he had a printer, a 3D printer, and he had an AI agent. And what he did was he asked this AI agent if the agent could design and build a jet engine. And he had it to scale. So it was a scaled down model of a workable engine. If this thing had fuel going through it, it would actually work. The AI was able to do it, right? And so that's what I'm talking about. I mean, a human being could not sit down and do that kind of thing in a matter of hours. Everybody follow what I'm saying? So that's what I'm talking about using to our advantage, right? Um, it still takes management from a human being. Does everybody follow? So we're not talking about AI that's going to be, like Jarvis. Even though I use that reference in class, that's kind of what I've envisioned for this next generation of code searching was be like voice command, being able to talk to your computer or talk to that program and put in, voice commands. That could be done with prompts only. So anyway, I did see that. I'm not concerned about it. I think that some people misunderstand where we're going with this. I don't think it's anything to worry about. There's no chance that the AI is going to rewrite the Bible or do something crazy to take over the world. I think that's just foolish. Anyway, so we're moving forward on that. We'll keep you guys up to date. Over on the Discord, there is now a place where you can go and put in your ideas and those kinds of things, what you want to see with a next generation code program. And we're going to try to integrate all of those things in there. It may not be everything. We're going to try to get as many in as we can. So anybody got anything to add to that? So I'm still taking ideas, by the way. You have a side code that you're working on? We'll make time, Margie. Absolutely. So if you'd like to show that, I'd like to see it. All right. So who wants to start us off? Leanna, you want to show us what you got or what you've been working on? I'm kind of excited to see this because I think the Peshitta is going to be the place for that particular topic about the Shroud of Turin is going to be mostly in the places where the disciples wrote about the crucifixion. You should be able to share. Did we ever record? You guys, I don't remember turning the recording on. Did it?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Am I?
Yes.
All right. I can't see it on here. It's this new thing is, I don't like it. It is recording. I see it now. Okay, very good. All right, take it away.
All right, this is the report first. Let me minimize y'all. Okay, this is the report. I went around the roundabout way 4 years ago or more when I was in your class before. All the students did codes. I couldn't find a thing, but this time I used linen cloth as my search term.
Yeah.
And I got 104 returns in the New Testament. Yeah. And so it's linen cloth. Well, it's actually cloth linen.
Right.
And Yeshua runs right through it. I'll show you the code in a minute. And several of the other codes had photon in it, but this particular one does not. I'm just showing you this real quick if you want any. Sometimes I like it when people show their report because I can grab words off there. Yep. But the verse down here that I wrote in is Matthew 16:21. It says, "From that time forth began Yeshua to show unto his disciples how that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and the chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised again the third day." Now, the other verse that's in here, and I'll show you where these are when I show you the matrix.
Okay.
The other one that I thought was significant to this code was Matthew 13:9-11. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. That's when Yeshua was talking about sowing the seed in the different kinds of ground that he was sowing it on. And the disciples came and said unto him, "Why speakest thou unto them in parables?" He answered and said unto them, "Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given." Okay, now I want to share the matrix.
And this speaks to why Yah hide things in the codes in the Bible. It's not for you to be able to read onto this. Imagine if he put the game plan, the battle plan right up on the surface, so you could just read it like the Wall Street Journal, right? So what does that do? That the enemy has it as well. So when Yeshua is speaking to those people, and we see this also in Luke, where he's recorded the same thing, they ask him, "Why does he do this?" And he says, "It's not for everybody." So there's a purpose and a reason why it's hidden. It's hidden from the enemy, and it's hidden for you. Proverbs says that it's an honor for the father to hide a matter and an honor for kings to search it out.
Amen. I agree with that 100%. Can you see the code, the
Oh yeah, we
matrix?
can see it. Yeah,
This
and that's kind of easier on the eyes too, with instead of the white.
that's
Muted.
I do like this in this program because you can change the background, and I get tired of the same old thing, so I like to change it. But this is a cloth burial. I mean linen, linen. It's bet, dalet, pay, shin, as in the shin in Yeshua, goes right through there. Tav, noon. That's linen cloth. And this is, I got so thrilled when I found this. This is heavenly, uh, noon, pay, lamed, aleph, image, dalet, yod, mem, wa, yod. So I go heavenly image, up here, three. Three is shin, wa, lamed, shin. Down here is dimensional, mem, dalet, yod. Burial, that starts over here with the kuf, bet, wa, resh, hey. Shroud, and I can't remember which order. I don't know if I'm going top to bottom or bottom to top, but that is shroud. And then over here is Turin, tet, wa, resh, yod, noon. And then up here, this is the verse that was talking about hiding a matter, you know, that a parable, you know, what you talk about parable. Well, this right here in the green is this gift, mem, tav, noon, hey, and from light is from the letter mem also is from, or aleph, wa, resh. So the whole thing is saying this is a heavenly image from gift from light, which, you know, Yeshua is the light, and the Father is the one who said, "Let there be light." And so I think this is really exciting. And the reason I picked this verse right here was because he said he was going to be buried, he was going to be persecuted, buried, and arise on that day, you know, very soon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all. Does anybody have any questions or
Yeah.
comment?
Did you go line by line and check all of the verses? Because I know your skip is pretty small. It's less. It's like 3,000, but it's small enough that somewhere
Yeah,
through down the bottom you might run into where the actual crucifixion is.
yeah,
You know.
I didn't go very much further than 21
Okay.
down here, but this is in Matthew.
Yeah.
It's in just in Matthew, but there were codes. And does anybody know what a photon is? Because
Yeah.
I don't understand the science, but photon was in a whole bunch of these codes, just not
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah. We're talking about on a subatomic level. Okay, so we're talking about beam lights like neutrons and things like that. So that fits right into some of the science on the shroud because it's very clear that this is not a burn. This is something that's essentially we're looking at the first ever selfie. Yeshua is the author of the first selfie, you guys. It's a photograph, is what it is. There was such a burst of light in a very short period of time that an image was transferred on there. It's very much like photography, okay? And it's very superficial. The image is very superficial. It does not penetrate all the way through the cloth. So an interesting fact about it is if you're within 6 feet of the image, it disappears. You can't see it. You can only see it if you're further than 6 feet away from it. Isn't that amazing? So so it's like an almost like an optical illusion. If you the closer you get to it, the harder it is to see. The further you get away from it, the easier it is to see. Um, I would think that you probably have a lot more terms in there. That was actually one of your best codes, Leanna. That looked really good.
Oh,
When you were doing that, I was thinking of words like likeness, a term that I've been hearing quite often looking at Russ's presentation is in the medieval times when the Crusaders and the monks and the priests and all were taught, they knew about the image on the cloth because they could see it. There was no photograph yet, but they knew it was an image and they called it the true likeness of Christ. The true likeness. And you see this written everywhere, true likeness. They even started doing icons based off of the likeness from the shroud. Instead of doing profiles, which were on coins, now there was a full frontal face of Yeshua, right? Because icons were like a side profile back in the day. Once they realized there was an image on the shroud, they started painting a frontal um, photograph, and they claim it was from the shroud. They call it the true likeness. So likeness. I was able to pull that up actually. Still working on this. This is very preliminary, you guys. This is true likeness encoded. Yeshua's name is here. Here it is on top of itself. You see it in the plain text and on top of itself. Here it is again and again here and also down at the bottom. And then we've got the word shroud that crosses itself like this. But there's, like I said, I'm just starting on this, and there's probably tons of terms there. Face cloth, his face, which is et panav. That's another one I would look for in your. I think that's like 5 letters. Et panav, his face. Um,
Jonathan, I was having some trouble
yeah.
because I had so many returns
Mhm.
that when I got to about 12 terms, it would not let me get any more. And that's
Really.
one thing about, new code programs. I wish there was a way that you could keep going because uh, the um, the the keys code finder, the code finder program does do that to you if you have too many. Now, if I have one return, usually I can put in 20, 30, but this one just kept saying,
That's interesting.
So,
So we want to be able to
yeah.
continue to search. You may have to start another access term, the same term, another table, and continue to get around that. It should let you continue.
Okay, I'll
Yeah,
try. Thank you.
yeah. Good job. Paul, you working on anything, brother? Anything more on the shroud?
You're breaking up. Are you speaking to me?
I am. I said, are you working on
Um,
anything?
you know what?
Anything on the?
An hour ago, I went into my archives and I pulled up the very first code I ever did.
Mhm.
Because do you remember a year ago you kind of had us start off on looking for shroud stuff?
Right.
Um, I can pull it up for you and
Sure.
kind of show you a few things from memory. Um,
Yeah. No pressure.
it's a
Yeah.
it's yeah, bear with me because
It's been a year.
yeah, and being my first code, it's a little it's not great. I didn't know a lot what I was doing, but let me, I had a hard time getting this to show on my computer. Are you seeing it? Because I'm not.
Yeah, we can see it. Mhm.
Okay, I'm not even seeing what I'm sharing. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, you should be able to see. You should get an
Okay,
option when you go to share.
there we go. Um, this is really weird. I'm trying to get rid of all the people's faces. Why don't you continue? There, I got it. I don't know what I did, but it's
We
working.
can see it. We can all see it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I couldn't.
All
All
right.
right. Okay, so bear with me, but this is, like I said, the first one I ever did. So my access term was authenticity right here. And then I had shroud right here. And I don't remember which way it goes, just like Leanna. So shroud, authenticity, and in the orange here is proof. And let's see, I'm trying to remember. I remember this black was photo image right here. And that was twice through here. Photo image. I remember John was very prominent right here because he was the first one to look into the tomb, I guess. And witness was right here, or witnesses, and an ELS right there with John, and tomb or grave right there. In pink here, it was irradiation, like light would irradiate. And that went also this way through photo image. Spirit. Um, let's see, this is quickened or quickening right there. And I guess Yahuwah is the one who quickened him, I suppose. We have imprint going through here. That's kind of all I remember. But I like authenticity proof shroud. Oh, immortality. I almost left that out. Oh, immortality. Okay, I'll leave you with that, Jonathan. That's all I remember on this.
And that from a
Okay.
year ago. Wow.
All right.
Yeah, he was one of the first ones to see the linens. And I think this is obviously God does things for a reason. And there was a reason why this was left behind, right? It was like a calling card. It was like Yeshua was making a statement, right? Because they say that the cloths were folded up nice and neatly and placed in the corner, and that's how they found them. And don't you know that the disciples and even the mother of Yeshua would have cherished this thing, even though he was raised from the dead? They wouldn't have just thrown this cloth away. And furthermore, going toward the argument that the body was stolen, right? Why would they leave the linen cloths folded up nice and neat? And then how did they get around the Roman soldiers that were there, but also the 100 plus temple soldiers that were camped out with them, right? So it doesn't make any sense. It's a witness to us, and I think it's one of the greatest witnesses we have. And I can remember the first time I saw that thing. I was like 12 years old. My grandfather showed me a postcard thing that he got from it. He went to Israel like 3 or 4 times, and this particular time he brought back like some stuff for me. I even had a little cross that was made from the same kind of wood, not the cross, but same kind of wood. It was like little, things you could wear and stuff like that. But that made a really big impression on me was that, I don't know, it was like a postcard, very small. And I would look at that thing and just imagine, man, what if this is really Yeshua or Jesus, as they called him at that time, right? And it was just something I was just fascinated with. So fast forward many years later, when I finally got into codes, and I came across Russ Briot at a conference one time, and when I found out what he was doing and what he was talking about, I was just really drawn to him. So I spent a lot of time talking to him, and he asked me, have you ever found anything in the codes about it? And I was like, that is a great idea to search for. And so, you know, that's when I started searching for, like I got the one I've shown you guys before, the face record of Yeshua, um, the Shroud of Turin, a face record. Another one, let's see, I forget some of the files I got here on this computer. This is stuff I've had to redo. A face record, burial cloth. What else do I got here? Face of God, um, Holy Shroud, Shroud of Yeshua, the Crucified King, and that is all of them on the shroud that I got. And those are the ones I have. I know other code searchers like Scott Bonnell has some really interesting ones. He does have the capability of searching in the Peshitta. And so, and then there are others out there that are just as compelling. Um, Mary was in the table as well. That is to be expected. Yeah. So, so we got a lot to talk about with Russ when we talk to him, and so that'll be Wednesday. Um, when I put that together, I'll post over in Discord if you guys want to come and hang out when I talk to him. All right. Anybody got anything else they want to share on codes? Margie, are you working on anything, sister? You want to share?
Yes, I do.
Very good.
See.
You should be able to share.
Mm,
I really appreciate all your help and notes and all those kinds of things that you do, by the way. All of you that helped out with that over with the new code ideas. Thank you.
can you see it?
Yep, we can see that.
Okay, because I can't see. Um, I didn't get everything written down here. Uh, this is on the side of another code. And so
Okay.
this absolutely surprised me to find something with Turing related in it. And I just started seeing things like, I guess imprint is somewhere around here. This is, where's the, um, this I think is the mem at the end of the word, the tav, the lamed. So it begins here and then skips one here, here, here. That's imprint. Right here is, let me see if I wrote that down. It's blanket illustrations. I was so surprised at blanket illustrations for the shroud instead of the shroud. It's blanket illustrations. There's Yeshua here. But what this is saying basically is Jehovah will strike. Oh, let's see. Right up here is delayed. This is rapture here. I was really surprised to find rapture. There's swarm, and within swarm there's misery, like the 50th Psalm or just misery. Then there's Shiva right here, Jehovah and all his anger, and Jehovah and the vessels of his wrath to destroy. This could be, but if you expand it out and have another letter one way or another, I can't remember where, Jehovah and all the seed of the earth with another. It sounds like Jehovah in his wrath wants to destroy all the seed of the earth. It's really, but this is a first witness. I've never seen that before. The abyss, that doesn't run through, it runs here. It's right here. And if you go one way, it's moral, and if it's another way, it's Turin. We have cheaters right here. Fearful is, can't remember where fearful is. I don't remember where fearful is. Okay, Yeshua. Decay. This is wolf right here. Decay is probably right here. Yes. There's an aerodome. Rubio in the blue and in the green aerodome are parallel. There's some politics going on in here. And facade is within aerodome. So there's a layer of politics here. But when I started looking for other terms, there was imprint 4 times in the code, but I showed you where the imprint was, and right here is the blanket illustration. And what is this? I can't remember what this word is. One line. I'm not really sure. I think, oh, it's abysmal. Abysmal is right here. So that's it. It's something I did not expect to see. I did not expect that blanket illustrations would be, that this would be a shroud code at all. And I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, I should probably say, in case you want to see, this is in keys. So it's Genesis to Psalms, skip 46, 167, and the access term, I would probably use blanket illustrations. Oh, I didn't give you a spelling of that. You can look it up in Google Translate, I imagine. But I can anyway, that's all. I don't know if I can. Did I unshare it?
No, but I can do that if you're done. Very
I
good.
don't know. Okay, thank you.
Good job. So Shroud is a really interesting topic right now. We are in that season, you guys, where Christians are celebrating Easter, but obviously, if you know your Bible, we know that that is not exactly what it was called. It was Passover time. The Last Supper was not called the Last Communion. It was called a Seder. It was a Passover Seder that Yeshua was having with his disciples, teaching them about what was about to happen. Some have asked, because we're coming into that season, and I had some people ask, so we're going to transition from that to how we find, first of all, the first of the year, because you can't find Passover unless you know how to reconcile the year, you guys, and we have to go back to Exodus to really do that and to see that where Yeshua says this will be the first of the year, the first of Nisan. We can also see in Exodus when the Exodus happened, and I am summarizing here because I don't have enough time to go through all of the text, you guys, but we can see in the Exodus story that at the time of the Exodus that the The barley was in a bead, meaning it was just coming up. It was green. It was not ready to be harvested, and so we can calculate from when harvest time is. Oh, excuse me, when that time of the year is, because the grain belt. If you didn't know, if you heard the grain belt, you guys, it's a strip that goes all the way across the earth where grains are grown, and it's usually the same time of year. You guys know that, right? So in Kansas, when they're growing grains like barley and they're doing wheat and in their season, the other side of the world, like Ukraine, it's the same thing. Okay, so there's no difference between Kansas and Israel. Is everybody following? Israel is special, but it's not so special that things defy nature. Does everybody understand that? Grains grow in their season. Now you can plant grain in any season you want, but are you going to get a harvest of it? Not unless you do a lot of things to prevent it from dying. Because if you plant it at the wrong time, you do it outside in the ground, and it's a rainy season, and you're in and where your plant is maturing, guess what? It's going to ruin it. So timing is everything. You can't just willy-nilly plant grain when you want to. So let's establish that right now. All right. So at the time of the Exodus, I think it's Exodus 6 or something like that. I have to go back and look. It tells us what was in the ground, what was coming up, and that the hail and the plagues was destroying it. Everybody know the story. Barley is different than wheat. Matter of fact, barley, okay, so on each, if you can imagine the 7 feasts of Yah like a menorah, right? You got 3 on one side, 3 on the other, and 1 in the middle, right? That's the 7 feasts. So you got the spring feast, and then you got the fall feast on either end. That's the bookends, and then you got 1 in the very middle, right? Guess what that 1 in the very middle is? Anybody know what that is? Christians call it Pentecost. It's Shavuot. This is the wheat harvest in the center. Now, at the beginning of the year, right? I got a graph here in a video that I can show you, but you know how Zoom's doing right now. At the time that we declare the year, at the equinox, and we know it's the equinox because historical writers tell us. We can't see that in the text because it's common knowledge. There was no way to know that there was going to be, a misunderstanding of the calendar in the latter years, where it was even addressed. It was not addressed in the time of Yeshua. So there was no discrepancy with the calendar. Otherwise, Yeshua would have addressed it, you guys. The calendar was altered in 325 AD under Constantine, okay? Before that, it was an agriculture calendar going by the sun and the moon and the planting cycles, okay? That's why we see the Feast of Yah, every single one of them have to do with a feast. Everybody understand that? The first ones is barley. That's what we're coming into right now. Barley. So we're looking for a bead. That's going to be Nisan 1, right? So what we do is we find the equinox, and Plato and Josephus both tell us that the ways that the Jews before Yeshua, during Yeshua's time, and after Yeshua were calculating this part of the year through the equinox. Okay? So the equinox would fall somewhere in a month between new moons, and whether it fell closer to the earlier part of the month or latter part of the month, like this month, by the way, equinox was 3 days ago. You can see that it's March 23rd right now. We are well past the midpoint of the month. So the new moon happening in the last 2 weeks of the month means what? That the closest new moon to count will be the next one, not the previous one. So that's where the historians say you start. Whichever new moon is closest to the equinox. It could be the one before or the one after, but whichever one's closest. Right now this year, and it fluctuates every year, it's the next one coming up, okay? So we got the new moon coming up, the new month. And what we do with that, because we know that's Nisan 1, we're counting 14 days. That's Passover. Nisan 14 is when we keep Passover. Okay? The next day is a Shabbat. Every 15th of the month, in every month of Yahuwah's calendar, and we know this from the Bible because every time the Bible mentions a Shabbat, it'll tell you a day, and it's usually the 15th. And if it's the 15th, then it's always the 15th. There's no month that it can't be the 15th. And we have we have number of data points that we can establish that, okay? We also know that the 8th, the 15th, the 22, and the 29 is also the Shabbat because simple math. All right? We're going to see that in Exodus 16 when Yah establishes the Shabbat. Okay? So I just told you how we established the year. That's done during the Exodus, during the time of the plagues. Nisan 1 happened. 14 days later was Passover, Nisan 14. The next day was a Shabbat. That evening on the 15th, they left on the evening of the 15th. You know why that is? Because when sundown happened on the 15th, Shabbat's over. That's when they left, after the rest. Now, they didn't know it was a Shabbat. Y'all didn't tell them they were on a Shabbat yet. Evening of the 15th, that's right, Michelle, is when they left Egypt. Let's go to Exodus 16. This is where your Bible tells you when, by the way, the first time that the Shabbat is mentioned is in Genesis 2, and it's when Yah took a break from creating creation. It does not say it's Saturday. Nowhere does it say it's Saturday. It just says it was the seventh day. Okay? Exodus 16 is when Yah gives it to man. So it doesn't matter what they were doing in the time of Enoch or any other time during that. Man did not get the Shabbat until Exodus 16. Everybody understand that? I'm not making it up. This is scripture. Exodus 16. This was 1 month after they left Egypt, you guys. So let me just, before we do that, let me show you what we're talking about. We're going to a place called Elim. This is chapter 16 in your Bible, Exodus. This is it right here. This is Elim, and that's where it is. Now, where the Jews were in Goshen, down here. This is where the Jews were in Goshen. Now, history says, from Catholic sources, that they left Goshen, crossed over the water, and the Sinai is over here. But that doesn't fit because this is not the Red Sea. It's the Gulf of Suez, right? The Red Sea is over here. So what the Jews actually did, and we have historical accounts of this as well, is they crossed over the Seed of Reeds, Yam Suf, which is right here. They crossed over this way to a place called Nueva, which is right here, Nueva. And they crossed over here. This, you know why? Because there's shallows here. Now, one way or in the other, and some have suggested, especially if you saw the recent movie that they just did with Russell Crowe, is I think it was Russell Crowe as Moses. It was a asteroid that hit the Gulf, and a tsunami caused the waves. Anyway, this is where they crossed over right here. This is where Solomon put up 2 columns commemorating the crossing, was Nueva and the other side. Okay. Now, Elim. So what they did is they crossed over at Nueva, came down the coast this way to this valley here. How do I know that? Because the Bible tells us that they came to a place called Elim, and at Elim there was a grove of trees with 12 wells. Guess what we have right here in this very spot called Elim? Is a grove of date trees and 12 wells. There are 12 wells here. Okay, that's important because this is leading up to Sinai, the actual Sinai. They came up through this valley all the way up to Sinai, which is called Jebel El Lawz in Arabic. This is where the mountain of Moses is, right? So historically, we can see from the Bible and other sources where they went. We can see from Google Maps the actual places. It says in the Bible they went to a place called Elim. There were 72 date trees and 12 wells. You go to Google Maps and go to the exact place, and there's 12 wells. How did they know that? How did they know that? Right? How did Google Earth know that, or the Bible know? You know, this is not just made up. This is a real place, right? So they ended up in Elim after 1 month of walking. This is what it says when they got there. So imagine this. You've been walking out of Egypt for a month. You probably depleted all of your resources. We know this because we could see in the text that they started murmuring. First, it was about water, right? The water was bad. Or maybe it was they wanted some meat, and then it was the water, right? But they were running out of resources, and they started to grumble. And so this is where Yah sends them the manna from heaven. This is why it happened. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came into the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. I just showed you that on the map. If you're texting, if you're talking to me, I cannot see unless I pull it up here. All right. So they came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month. So the 15th day of the first month is when we left Egypt, you guys. It took us exactly 1 month of walking to get here. We didn't take any Shabbats. Not yet. Not until we got to this point. So some people say, well, what were they doing in the desert before they got there? Were they Shabbating then? No. Yah was just getting them synchronized to his calendar. Listen to what he says. After their departing out of Egypt, and all the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. You know, they're running out of food. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died, but the hand of Yah in the land of Egypt. And when we sat and ate, I skipped the whole line. Murmured against the children, and the children of Israel went to. No, I didn't. Would to God we had died by the hand of Yah in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill us, this whole assembly, with hunger. They're running out of food, right? And then said Yah unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I might prove them whether they will walk in my law or not. So he was going to test them. And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day they shall prepare that which is to what they bring in, and it shall be twice as much. So they're going to collect manna for 6 days, collecting twice as much on the 6th day, because they're going to rest on the 7th, right? So remember, this is still the 15th day when they get here. And Yah's having this conversation with Moses and establishing this with them, right? That they're going to work for 6 days, collecting twice as much on the 6th day, and they're going to rest on the 7th. And Moses and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel, at evening, that should be evening, at evening, then shall they know that Yah hath brought you out of the land of Egypt, and in the morning ye shall see the glory of Yah, for that heareth your murmurings, and it's against Yah. But what are we that ye should murmur against us? And Moses said, this shall be when Yah shall give you in the evening flesh to eat. So on the 15th that they get there, they got there early on the 15th. They're resting for the whole 15th. That is a Shabbat. They're going to have meat to eat in the evening of the 15th. It's going to come down from the mountain. That's the quails. And in the morning, which will be the 16th of the month, bread to the full. And that's when they start collecting manna for the first time. This is going to establish the first Shabbat and the first work week that man's ever done in accordance to Yahuwah's law. Everybody follow that, right? And in the morning, bread to the full. For that Yah heard your murmurings, which you did murmur against him, and saying, what are we? What are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against Yah. And Moses spoke unto Aaron, saying to all the congregations of the children of Israel, come near before the Lord, for he hath heard your murmurings. And it came to pass that Aaron spake unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, and they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of Yah appeared in the cloud. And Yah spoke unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, at evening ye shall eat flesh. So the birds are going to come down. And in the morning, on the 16th, you'll be filled with bread. And ye shall know that I am Yah, your Elohim. So he's going to feed them. After they complain that they don't have no groceries, folks, he's going to say, guess what? I'm going to test you. I'm going to feed you, but I'm going to see if you're going to do what I'm going to tell you to do. I want you to work for 6 days, collecting twice as much on the 6th and rest on the 7th. And it came to pass that in the evening the quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning the dew laid around the host. And when the dew that laid was gone up, behold, the whole face of the wilderness where they had lay, a small round thing, as small as the hoar frost on the ground. When the children of Israel saw it, they said to one another, it is manna. For they wist not what it was. And Moses said unto them, this is the bread which Yah hath given us to eat. And this is the thing which Yah had commanded, gather it of every man according to his eating, an omer. This is where the Jews establishing counting the omer comes from, you guys, because guess what? Constantine says you'll no longer keep the Feast of Weeks. You're not going to keep these Jewish feasts anymore. So you know what the Jews did? They invented something new that wasn't in what Constantine had outlined that they could not do. They could no longer count the weeks, which is what this is. Counting, we're going to be, from Leviticus, we're counting weeks up into a certain point. The Jews have pulled from this text here that is where they get counting the omer. So if you see the Christian Hebrews that are counting omers with the Jews, they're getting it from the Talmud. There's nowhere in the Torah that tells you to count an omer. It comes from the Jews, taking it from this, and because Constantine said that they no longer can count the weeks, okay? Let's be very clear on that. The Bible does not tell you to count omers, all right? That's not what this text is about. An omer for every man, according to the number of your person, take every man for them which are in his tents. And the children of Israel did so, and they gathered some more and some less. And when they did it, met it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating. And Moses said, let no man of it till the morning. That means don't save any more till the morning. You're supposed to collect more the next morning, and on the 6th day, twice as much, so you can have it on the 7th day. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moses, but some of them left until the morning, and it bred worms, and it stank, and Moses was wroth with them. And they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating. And then the sun waxed hot, and it melted. And it came to pass, this is really interesting right here. I don't want to skip over this too quickly because I want you to notice this. You see that number right there? That next number we're coming at, that verse? That is very significant. It is not there just by accident, you guys. Y'all put that there as a signal to you. Know why that is? You know why that is? Let's back up and do the math. If we got there on the 15th, and Yah gives us all these instructions on the 15th, and he feeds us quails at the evening of the 15th, and he says on the morning of the 16th, you're going to start collecting manna. And you're going to do that for 6 days, collecting twice as much and resting on the Sabbath. So you know what that means? The first day of work ever was the 16th day of the month. The 16th day of the month. So that means if you count 6 days, twice as much on the 6th, and then take the next day to rest, you know what day it is? Any guesses? It's the 22nd. It's the 22nd day of the month. That's your first Shabbat. That is your first Shabbat. So that means if the 15th was a Shabbat, and we know that the 22nd is a Shabbat, and they're doing this for 40 years after this continually, it means that the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th of every month is a Shabbat. And the only way that's possible, you guys, because if you do a straight count, Monday to Saturday, and you try to do it that way, guess what happens? It don't work. You cannot do a straight count without calculating the new moon. The new moon has to be calculated every month for the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and 29th to be a Shabbat. The Bible lays it out that way. I didn't lay it out that way. The Bible did. So we know from the scriptures, not Jubilees, not some guy on YouTube, we know from the Bible that it came to pass on the 6th day that they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for 1 man. And the rulers of the congregation came to, and told Moses and said unto them, this is what that which Yah had said. Tomorrow is the rest and the holy Sabbath unto Yah. Bake that which ye shall bake today, and seeth that ye will seeth, and that which remaineth to lay up for you to be kept in the morning. And they laid it up until morning, as Moses bade, and they did not, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. And Moses said, eat to that today, for today is a Sabbath unto Yah. What day? The 22nd. The very first Shabbat ever for human beings was the 22nd day of the month, you guys. They didn't realize they were resting on the 15th. They had just got there. They were tired and hungry and complaining. And Yah says, guess what? Here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow you're going to go to work and you start going to collect these little round things on the ground. And you're going to do it so much a day. And you're not going to save any for the next day. But you're going to collect twice as much on the 6th day, so you'll have enough for the 7th day, because you're going to rest on the 7th day, right? He's establishing all that right now. And it was 1 month after they left Egypt. We know the exact day when they got there. They got to Elim on the 15th. They're resting. Yah sends meat for them to eat in the evening and says, tomorrow's your first day of work, the 16th day of the month. Their first Shabbat was the 22nd day of the month, folks. We can't argue with the math. And the thing about it is, this went on for 40 years continually. We know for sure. And probably continued all the way up into the Yeshua, because Yeshua never said anything about there being any discrepancy with the calendar, you guys, or Shabbat. And we can see historically, from historical counts, that it did not happen until the time of Constantine, which was 325 years after Yeshua. This is when Saturday became a thing under Rabbi Hillel. You ever heard of the Hillel calendar? That's when it came. And there you go. It's in the Bible. It's very clear. We can see that the Sabbath is observed the first time in Exodus 16. And matter of fact, verse 22 of all verses is the very first Shabbat. We got any questions? Now, this is really hard for people to understand. They say, "Oh, how can it be that the moon observers came from Babylon?" You know, I can't speak to what they were doing in Babylon. I know what the Bible says. And I can assume that they probably got what the people of the Bible were doing and gleaned from that. But we can't establish doctrine based on things that, what they were doing in Babylon. This is from the Bible. Furthermore, the three magi that came to find Yeshua in Jerusalem, who, by the way, were following the stars, the sun, moon, and stars, they were proteges of the prophet Daniel, you guys, who was in Babylon and brought all that information to Babylon. So when these magi were coming to Jerusalem to find Yeshua, they got the information from Daniel many years before. That's how they knew to find the Messiah. They were following what Daniel had taught them in the school of magicians, right? Because Daniel was classified as a magician and a soothsayer. That didn't make him one, right? Because when the king came to find somebody to decipher the dreams and for the knowledge that Daniel had, he didn't go to the soothsayers. He went to the one that was over the soothsayers, which was Daniel. So Daniel was teaching these people the ways of Yah. I guarantee you, this is how these magi, called magicians, came and found Yeshua some couple hundred years later, right? Let me catch up on some of your, I see you guys were texting there. Now, I know there's a thing out there where people are following what's called a Zadok calendar, you guys, but there's nobody called the Zadok. There was one man in the Bible called Zadok, and that was the high priest of David, right? Zadok is a word, a name that has a meaning. It means righteousness, okay? And technically, anyone that follows Yeshua or follows the Bible, follows the Torah, is a Zadok. There were no priests called Zadok. Not any priest called Zadok. You guys understand that? Nowhere. Not in Qumran, not in Jerusalem. The temple did not have priests called Zadok. What were they called? Somebody please tell me what the priests were called. Anybody know? Starts with an L. Levites, exactly. They were called Levites. John the Baptist was a Levite. He was not a Zadok, okay? So this is something that's been made up in the past few years based off of, some work of modern day authors like Ken Johnson and the two cylinder calendars or disc calendars that they found in Qumran. And by the way, one tracks the moon and one tracks the sun. They needed both to calculate the month and the years, right? Not just one or the other. And by the way, in Jubilees, when it says, I think it's chapter 6 when it talks about the calculation of the moons and how it can go wrong if you don't know what you're doing. I think this is what it's making reference to, that you can't just use one or the other. And by the way, guess what Rome does? Rome only uses the sun. The Bible tells us, Psalm 104:19, the moon determines the Moedim. Moedim is one of your words. What does it mean? Appointed times. So the Bible is telling us in Psalm 104:19 that the moon tells us the appointed times. If you look at it like a clock, and the sun is the small hand, which moves, it moves not as fast as the big hand, right? The big hand goes around a little faster than, so that would be the moon. The big hand's the moon, the sun is the small hand. It's a clock. We need both of them. I can't just tell time with the big hand or just the little hand. I would be off most of the time, correct? It takes both of them. And it's the same thing with what they found in Qumran with those two discs. You have to have both to tell, to reconcile the year and the month. Go ahead, Marty.
Didn't they? I'm
right
sorry,
there.
Jonathan. Didn't
Yep.
they add like 10 days to the calendar anyway?
Yes, they did in 1582. I
They
believe it
added
was.
10 days. They
Yep.
added 2 months too, also.
Yes.
So come
Yep.
on.
And here's the other thing. We have what's called the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar. Currently, we're on the Gregorian calendar, but in Yeshua's time, they were on something called the Julian calendar. And guess what? Completely different. 8 days in a week. And Saturday wasn't the Shabbat, you folks. They did have Monday and Saturday, all that. But Saturday wasn't Shabbat during Yeshua's time. There was 8 days in a week. Saturday was the first day of the week. Who would have thunk, right? But this is where the confusion comes later, Marty, where they changed the calendar. Gregory was the one that said, hey, we got some stuff going on here, right? And then so that what they did was the 10-day discrepancy. And that's why they try to intercalate the mistakes of keeping an 8-day week, right? So keep that in mind. During Yeshua's time, there was in fact 8 days in a week. Do we think Yeshua was on that? No, he was not on that calendar. Not at all. He was on a agricultural calendar that was oversaw by the Levites. Okay, so the Levites. Every month, not just the 7th month, you guys, in the 7th month when they're looking for Yom Teruah, the Feast of Trumpets, and they're blowing the trumpets on the 7th month. Guess what? We do that every month. That's what the Bible says to do, to consecrate every new moon. That means every new moon, every crescent that we see going into a new month. And I know some people say the full moon is a new month. That's another debate. Okay? That's a whole thing hinged up on the word cassette, which means concealed. And I don't know how you could call a full moon a concealed moon, but that's another story. Anyway, every month is determined by the blowing of a shofar when 2 witnesses see the moon. That's what the Bible says. It's not just a 7th month, you guys. It's every month. David celebrated new moon time. We can see that in the text. Right? Everybody with me? So I've taken a break on teaching this because it's a contentious subject. First of all, people like to divide over it. I've been in a long battle with another ministry, and we're just gotten nasty over this kind of thing. And there's been attacks that are uncalled for, based just on this fact here that we disagree on that. So I've kind of back. If you notice, I haven't taught calendar. I've stepped back up. I let everybody else say what they want to say, and I still see the confusion with them when there's Zadok calendar and they're trying to keep, a Passover with no full moon. By the way. Go think. It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, how they can determine that the moon came from Babylon. First of all, the Father created the moon. It is part of his clock. We cannot just throw it away and say it doesn't matter and that comes from Babylon. No, I don't care what they did in Babylon. I'm going on what the Bible is instructing and how it lays out a pattern that absolutely lines up with the moon. And lo and behold, Psalm 104:19, it says the moon determines the Moedim, meaning the moon's going to tell you when Shabbat is. The moon's going to tell you when these feast days are. Okay? That's what the Bible says. So, that's all I got for you guys. That's coming up. I think April 12th. I got to look.
Yes,
Anyway,
Jonathan,
it
April
is
12th.
very good. April
But
12th.
But the World's Last Chance has that on April 11th, but I
They're
believe
always
it's
a day
April
off.
12th.
They're always a day off, Marty. You know why that is? Because they
They don't do the 2-day for the new moon, or
right. That's exactly right. The new moon's when there's no moon, which is a day. We can't just that day doesn't just go away. We have to have it in account somewhere and account for it. And this is where when Christians or whatever Hebrews are trying to figure out this calendar, they don't know what to do with that moon. It's like a pause point. Okay, it's what it is. We're pausing and stopping everything and looking up in the sky at that time to establish a time. It's like looking at the clock and establishing a time, right? When you see that there's no moon, you're not new moon time. The next day, you'll see a signal. You'll see the sliver. So you're hitting the new moon time, right? Let's reverse that. Let's do that 2 weeks later. Let's say we think that the new moon is at full moon time, right? Have you ever looked at the full moon 2 days before and 2 days after? It's very hard to distinguish which day is the full moon. Try that this next time. Look at your phone, establish when the full moon is, and then look at the moon the night before and the night after. And you tell me which looks like the full moon. It looks almost, you can't tell 1/14 of a lumination when it's a full moon. It's hard to see. You can't see it. But you can see when there's no moon and then there's a first sliver. That's how we know when the start of that cycle is. If you try to do it with the full moon, it gets really confusing really fast. Okay? It looks like a full moon for 3 nights. That's exactly right. And sometimes if it's a blue moon, you could have 2 nights of a full moon, 2 whole nights of a full moon, which is crazy. That kind of throws things off. This is how we know that it's not completely like a circle in the rotation. It's like an egg. It's an ebb and flow. And this is exactly why we have tides, is because of the moon. By the way, animals and all of nature are in sync with this rhythm. Man is the only one that's out of sync with this rhythm. You guys understand that? The animals know. They do. I could take you to Hawaii, to a place where there is a calendar posted on a tree right next to the ocean. And get on that calendar, it'll tell you every day that you can go fishing and every day you shouldn't go fishing. And you know what's based on? The moon cycle. I'm not kidding you. I got a picture of it somewhere. It's for 30 days. It'll tell you which the best days to go. Closer to the new moon, closer to the full moon, in between. Fish have a rhythm. They don't bite every day, but there are days that you can go fishing and you can't put them, you don't have enough room to catch them. Okay. Then there are days where you won't catch a one. It's a rhythm that fish are into, and that's all species of fish. I've learned that from many years of fishing, you guys. I used to have an app that would tell you the best times to go, and it was based on the moon. And every time I went based on that, I tore them up. I killed it. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. We got Passover coming up in just a couple of weeks. I'm going to be in North Florida. I've been invited to come up to Miss Barbara's, Miss Barbara over at the Hebrew group that I go Shabbat with, hang out with the feast. We're going to be in North Florida this time. And so I'm going to be going to that, probably going to be speaking. Christina's going to be speaking, and we're going to be there all week. So we'll still have class. Yeah, we'll still have class. And I think I got internet there, if I'm not mistaken. I've only
Hey,
been there
Jonathan,
once.
Barbara's a lunar Sabbath day, correct?
That's right. That's correct.
Barbara, you can find her on lunar Sabbath day.
That's right.
For those that need to read and know more.
That's right. I'll put a link over in Discord for Miss Barbara, you guys, if you're interested in that. I haven't been pressuring you guys or even been adding it to the curriculum. And like I said earlier, I've been taking a break from that because of the confusion. It is like one of the biggest divisive issues out there. People get really touchy when it really comes to it. And I have a simple formula. If it's not in the Bible, you know, it's not for me. So everything that they're pulling out of the Jubilees and everywhere else, you guys, if it's not in the scriptures, I'm not doing it. And it doesn't make any sense to do it coming from a book that has, you know, so many discrepancies. The book of Jubilees has 28 contradictions in it. And you know what subject those contradictions are on? I'll give you one guess. It's the calendar. So it's like 2 people have opposing opinions, are writing about the calendar in one book, and they differ. That's how we know that somebody altered it in the book of Jubilees, folks. Most scholars see that, and that's why they say that it's not an authentic book, because there have been changes. It's not consistent, one author all the way through. Somebody came and made changes. And the subject matter stands out. The calendar. So how can a person, if it's one person that wrote it, why did they say in one part of the book one thing and then in the other part of the book something different? That person is either bipolar or there is another author. That's the reason. It's called interpolation. Okay. So Jubilees, it's a great book to glean from, but you don't want to pull your doctrine from, and you certainly don't want to pull what you believe from the Shabbat from it. Okay, and that's all I got to say on that. You guys got anything else to add before I close tonight? I hope this answers some of the questions that I got. Instead of typing, I told the person that was asking questions, I'll address this in class because it's just easier for me, because I get so many messages, emails, and personal messages, and even text on my phone, that I get sick of texting, right? I would rather talk to the person on the phone or meet them in a meeting or something like that, because it's just so time consuming to text, right? So, so I hope this answered your questions. I think it was Michelle that was asking. So very good. All right, let me close with prayer, you guys. We'll see you in the next class. I'll also keep you updated this week in Discord. If you got any more ideas on the new software, please look for the new thread over in Discord and add to it. Okay. All right. Abba, we're just so thankful, Father, for each and every one that's here tonight, Father. And I just ask that you go with them this week, that you keep them protected, that you keep them healthy, Father, that you would lead them in the way that you would have them go, Father. Bring them back at the appointed time. I ask this in Yeshua's name. Amen. All right, guys. I love you. We will see you in the next one.